नमस्कार, जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेफ टॉक्स. दिस इज आदि अचिंत. आई हैव विद मी हमारे साथ हैं कर्नल राजीव अग्रवाल, सीनियर फेलो एंड ऑफ कोर्स ex army veteran from the Chintan Research Foundation. Sir is to my mind one of the leading experts Middle East, West Asia. जिस मर्जी तरह से आप उसको बोल लीजिए. सर जी नमस्कार, वेलकम टू द शो.
थैंक यू आदित्य.
बहुत टाइम हो गया सर आपसे बात करे हुए. ये तो पूरा दिस रीजन इज एक्चुअली ब्लोइंग अप एंड आई ऑलवेज लुक फॉरवर्ड टू आवर कॉन्वर्सेशंस. सर ये जो ईरान एंड अमेरिका के बीच में चल रहा है, दे आर सेइंग कि भाई नेगोशिएशंस ये वो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग हियर सर?
Adi, it is in a very जैसे कहते हैं ना explosive state, and you might say that this might be our last podcast on pre-war scenario, and the war could have broken out tonight or any time hereafter. So it is a very delicate and explosive scenario, but what I would say is it is not a scenario which could not have been avoided. It has been artificially structured, and the kind of pressure and unreasonable demands that the United States is putting on Iran. Iran has withstood sanctions and everything for last 30-40 years, but even if it was not Iran, any other strong sovereign state would find it very difficult to accept such unreasonable demands.
सर जो अभी जिनीवा देयर इज दिस थिंग व्हिच इज हैपनिंग. ये लोग बोल रहे हैं कि भाई हम नेगोशिएट कर रहे हैं, ये सब कर रहे हैं. जिनीवा के अंदर 2-3 राउंड्स इनके नेगोशिएशंस के हो चुके हैं. इरानियंस का द थिंग केम आउट, ओह नो वी आर हैप्पी विद द नेगोशिएशंस, इट्स प्रोग्रेसिंग वेल एंड दिस एंड दैट. तो लेट्स कीप द जो भी लास्ट नेगोशिएशन हुआ है जिसके अंदर काफी अनरीजनेबल डिमांड्स है उसको जरा थोड़ा सा दूर रखते हैं. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द नेगोशिएशन टिल दैट पॉइंट. इरानियंस का ये जो पॉजिटिव एटीट्यूड था कि वी आर doing well and this and that. This is very weird considering कि last time जो 12-day war हुई थी that happened in the middle of negotiations. So how come Iranians are seeming so, or is this a mirage that they're putting up कि भाई नहीं सब कुछ ठीक है, we are handling it well?
नहीं, you are right, Adi. I mean, जो last 12-day war हुआ था, that was 2 days before the 5th round of talks were supposed to take place. Can you just stop the recording for a minute? Yeah. So, Adi, if you recall the last time when the 12-day war broke out on 13th of June, it was 2 days before the 5th round of talks were supposed to take place. And both United States as well as Iran were very confident, that there is going to be some resolution that is going to come about. And to my mind, that was one of the, triggers or one of the apprehensions that Israelis had, that if 15 June talks succeed and there is some framework to which Donald Trump, agrees to that, then what will happen to the whole Iranian threat that Israel has on its mind, So that was one of the reasons. But this time what is happening, this is the last resort. So both the Iranians also know, as well as United States also know, that there is no going back on this. It is like, Arya Parwala scene as well. So the dynamics are very different. Plus, both the US, Israel and Iran now have the hindsight of a war scenario which has already taken place. इससे पहले ईरान के ऊपर डायरेक्ट मिलिट्री स्ट्राइक्स जो है गाजा वॉर में से पहले नहीं हुए थे. So this now they both all the I would say the three parties have the advantage or knowledge of the hindsight of having this war having shaped up in Iran, and most of all Iran has taken number of steps to to overcome all the vulnerabilities that were there in the 12-day war. And I'm not saying that all the vulnerabilities have been removed. Their air power is still very old and ineffective. Their air defenses and missile defenses are still coming up, and we all get reports on a daily basis that some radar systems, early warning systems, they have been delivered by the Chinese. Some equipment is coming from Russia, but there's no confirmation on that. These are all based on war intel reports which keep coming on. There's no confirmation on that, although in some form Iranian officials do say that we are getting close collaboration from Russia and China. But the issue out here is, Adi, what we need to understand, that there is a total, what should I say, a gap or a huge gulf between what the United States wants to achieve in this war, if it goes through with it, and what Iran wants to achieve. And that is where the dichotomy exists, and that is why US has not been able to conduct these military strikes till today, starting from 12th of January, when they said, we are locked and loaded, and we are coming to you when the in the middle of the protest that Iran was undergoing. So, what are these two extremes that you have on the United States and Israel side? They have two or three very clear objectives. One is total annihilation as far as the military capabilities are concerned. Iran should capitulate to the military power and military strikes of the United States and Israel, plus regime change. Every now and then, whether it is Prime Minister Netanyahu, his ministers, or even Donald Trump, they have accepted, said, or in not so many words, that regime change is the ultimate answer to all the problems that Iran has created in the region. What is Iran looking at? Iran knows that it cannot fight an equal battle as against the military superiority of Israel and United States. So it knows that it is going to get hurt, but it has the capability and will to absorb strikes because of so many reasons. So what is it looking at? It is only looking at a limited capability of striking back successfully at some targets on United States bases, its fleet, etc., and Israel, irrespective of how much damage it incurs. Knowing very well that there is very, very low threshold as far as taking casualties or taking damage is concerned, whether by the American guys or in Israel. So this is the whole game on which Iran is banking on. Otherwise, Iran would have quote unquote capitulated much earlier than this.
Hmm. Sir, this was also there कि भाई the capitulation अभी तक कैसे नहीं हुआ. We've got such big military power and this and that. They've not yet. Uh, why would a country capitulate? So does this tell you something about the thought process itself? कि यार कम से कम ढंग से तो सोच लो भाई. Why would the country just fold up and roll over and die? Why would anybody
So
do that?
yeah, you're right. So this is the fanciful, mindset or fanciful idea that Americans have nurtured for a long time, and obviously they have been coaxed and prodded by the Israeli minds, primarily the Prime Minister, who keeps going to Washington every now and then to get Trump on board. So it is a very fanciful design, and I just took some statistics before this show started. So, what is the size of Iran? Iran is 1,64,040, sorry, 1 crore 64 lakh 48,195 square kilometers as per Google. It is the 17th largest country in the world. It has huge variety of terrain and very long mountainous ranges, which have got deep valleys in which most of the nuclear plants have been emitted, making it very difficult for a direct strike to take place. North to south, it is about 1650 kilometers, and east to west it is 1800 kilometers. And in size, it is 75 to 80 times larger than Israel. So you're not talking of a country which can be bombed out of shape with few aircrafts or few missiles or even hundreds of missiles because of all the factors that I've told you. However, conversely, see what's going to happen. Israel is a very small country. The military bases, 13, which are the prominent military bases, plus if you add few targets that have been added because of the naval deployment in the Persian Gulf by the United States, they are very, very small targets. If after firing 100 missiles by Iran, even if two or three are able to escape through the formidable air and missile defense of the United States, the allies, and Israel, their purpose is served. So it is a very, very asymmetrical military capability that we are talking of, but more importantly, a very, very asymmetrical military objectives that we are talking of. And that is where the problem lies as far as United States and Israel are concerned.
When you look at ये दोनों के बीच में this fight, sir, there are two three major things which I look at. Of course, there's a two-way fight. Iran fighting Israel and America. So let me just put this across: Iran versus Israel, Iran versus America, because the approach is pretty much from the south. What could be the battle plan, sir? Because for anything to work, and I'm not a military guy, तो मेरे तो दिमाग में ये है कि for anything to work कि भाई आपको पहले तो you have to remove all such a military capability and the decision C2 C4 centers. Only when you take out that can you actually move forward in the battle. नहीं तो आप you'll also be taking a lot of damage. The Iranians would know that. उन्होंने भी अपना C2 C4 would have split it around the place so that they can sustain in case even the central post is gone. This sort of an operation will require at least 2 weeks of extremely heavy bombing, the likes of which we've not seen probably after, Desert Storm or something like that. Does the capability exist to do something like that, sir? And leaving the Iran and Israel aside, just the capability of the country, is there the capacity between the Israelis and the Americans to do something like this?
So, Adi, that's a very interesting question, and most of the defense analysts, even in America, and you would have heard about the post in which one of the American generals in Pentagon has given out a statement in Wall Street Journal that if we go into this war, we do not have the kind of ammunition and logistics to fight a war for more than 5 to 7 days, and that is a concern which is live, which is actual, and which is going to be faced by them, because Iran is not going to capitulate in 5 to 7 days. It has not happened earlier in any country. Afghanistan, if you take this thing strike, the operation started, I think, on 18th or 15th of October 2001, the operation against Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, and the intensity of the bombing was immense, and they dropped everything that was there. But ultimately, 21 years later, they had to withdraw, because even with boots on ground, a country with absolutely no military capability could not be won. And here we are talking of Iran. So they will take out the military command and control systems. They will take out the air and missile defense systems of Iran. They will try and target the military as well as the political leadership, everything. So it's a very structured thing, like it happens in any military campaign. That is going to happen if it unfolds. Question is, will it succeed, and how much gains it is going to give you? And answer is very doubtful, because even if you bomb the entire air and missile defense, which we did, which the Americans did in the 12-day war, Israelis had total air superiority, that they could operate any kind of an aerial platform with impunity within 2 days of the 12-day war. By 15th, they declared absolute air superiority. Most of the known missile bases had been taken out. Their energy infrastructure was targeted, although it was only one or two places, and obviously their nuclear sites had been bombed out of shape, and which was followed later on 22nd of June, when the B-2 bombers brought down GBU-57 bombs, and reportedly, which I contested very critically even on your show, if you remember last time, that it is technically not possible to have destroyed the Fordo plant with GBU-57, because the capability and the penetration versus the concretization and the depth of Fordo plant did not match. And now they've accepted it. They are saying that the nuclear capability of Iran is going. That means they've accepted that complete obliteration of nuclear program did not take place. So this is going to be a problem. They do not have the logistics or the munition to fight a war which is more than 5 to 7 days. And to think that Iran will succumb in 5 to 7 days is, I don't have words to put it, whether it's a fantasy or a dream or whatever. Even if you take out the Iranian military leadership, if you remember, I wrote about it about 2 weeks back, that what is required in Iran, is it a regime change externally propped, or it is a regime change which is internally orchestrated by the regime itself? Because the supreme leader is already 86 years old, and now all the reports that we are getting, including statement by the foreign minister Rakji, that we have initiated measures to have 4 successive layers of leadership at all levels. So you take out the first layer, the second layer takes over, the second layer goes out, the third layer takes over. And this time, unlike in June 2025, they have not announced who are the second or third layer. So unless, Mossad is very, very deeply embedded, that they know also which are the second, third or fourth layer, they'll not be able to do so. Plus, unlike Libya, Gaddafi, or Syria, Assad, or somewhere, it is not a one-man show as far as Iran is concerned. The leadership is so intertwined and deeply structured that it is amazing how they have got this whole thing into the constitution. You have a supreme leader, you have assembly of experts, you have guardian council, you have judiciary, and everybody is selecting everybody else. So it is so intertwined and it's so closely meshed that it is impossible for anybody to take out the entire government, political and military structure of Iran in one go.
Hmm. So basically, they've split up themselves. So now let's come to this latest round of negotiations. Now, the Wall Street Journal has come out with a report saying that just cut off everything. Fordo ban karo, Isfahan ban karo, ye ban karo, just switch off everything. No nukes, no enrichment, no nothing. You basically become a vassal and you come and really just shine my boots. That's just about it. And we will let you survive. With all the enthusiasm that the Iranians were putting out in public, now what, sir?
This is a classic play what happened in Venezuela. They took out Maduro and then they said, now Venezuela is ours.
Yep.
They will sell the oil as we tell them. They will govern Venezuela as we tell them. Our companies will establish oil rigs and refurbish them and modernize them. And countries which are importing oil will be as per our diktat, who we allow or who we permit. They want the same thing with Iran. And Iran has made it very clear that three things are beyond discussion. One is a ballistic missile or any kind of a conventional military program or conventional military capability. Second is the right to enrichment. And Adi, we should be reasonable because we are neither Iran nor US or Israel.
Israel, yeah.
Iran is a signatory of NPT. And NPT, under a very specific clause, gives right to nations to enrich uranium for civilian nuclear purposes, right? So Iran is saying, why should we go back on the right which has been given by an international treaty of which we are signatory? Point number two. IAEA, which had supervision over the entire Iranian nuclear program and Iranian nuclear activity, has never ever pointed out that a weaponization program is in progress as far as Iran is concerned.
Correct.
In fact, when Trump withdrew from the JCPOA in May 2018, and it took 1 year for all the sanctions to kick in place, and I think it was March 2019, if I remember correctly, when IAEA gave its last report before Iran started kicking them out of the nuclear sites, that Iran was in full compliance with the provisions of the JCPOA.
Hmm.
Even in the Biden administration, when IAEA had limited access to the Iranian nuclear sites, some of the cameras were switched off, some of the inspectors were not allowed to go. There was not a single instant where the international agency said that there is a weaponization program which is in progress and it needs to be shut down. There was no trace of a weaponization program which has been brought out as a proof. It has only been propagated by Israel and seconded by US that there's a nuclear weapons program which is in progress. And coming to what you said yesterday, after the talks, this is a classic setting of the preparation of the battlefield and setting the public mind before you go out for war. The American spokesperson, I think Steve Witkoff or somebody, has made this statement that the nuclear weapon program is few months away. How can that be? On one hand, you have claimed and certified that the entire nuclear weapon program has been obliterated. The only thing that you are doubtful is the 400 kgs of 60% enriched uranium, which we have not been able to found. And now you are saying that without anything else that has developed in the last 8 to 9 months, suddenly Iran is going to make nuclear weapons. How can both be true? So, they have caught themselves in a mind. And I wrote about a response to one of the tweets that was there 2 3 days back, that in diplomacy and in military, you are taught two lessons never to violate. One is never take a maximalist position. always leave room for maneuver, you know, so that if you have taken a decision, you can always go back, modify, reflect, and then revise your position versus the other party. And second is, never underestimate your adversary. America is going wrong in both the points. They have amassed so much of military power around Iran. They have made open declarations about this military capability being amassed. They have got all their offensive capability, rounded up in the region. And now for them to back out, either without a deal or a military victory, how do they face their, countrymen or the press or the opposition? And second is underestimating Iran. When they started building up this military capability, it was in a situation or a perception that we could just destroy Iran. Only thing that we require is getting the capability inside. Now that the capability is inside, they are realizing that it is going to be very difficult. So they have violated the two basic principles of taking a maximalist position and underestimating the adversary.
Hmm. That's something which is very weird, sir. And Americans have, I mean, जो भी कह लो, अगर ये Americans have been like this with all their adversaries. So it's weird, but it's not new,
I
right?
agree. I agree. It's not new, but other I can say that, and you can contest it that they did it with so and so country, but all other countries and Iran, they're totally
Are
different.
different. Are different. Every situation is different. There's no question.
So Iran is not Libya, Iran is not Iraq, Iran is not Syria, Iran is not Afghanistan. A country
When you look,
which has developed the most modern potent ballistic missile program. They're launching their own satellites, they're making their own automobiles, they're making their they are making their own all kinds of technology and manufacturing, despite being under severe sanctions for 30-40 years. Which other nation can you count in this world out of the 193 countries which has such resilience and willpower and capability to continue withstanding such heavy sanctions?
when we look at the the negotiations and when we look at the Trump's, I'm going to call it Trump's build-up over there. How much time do you give, sir? Because war is pretty much inevitable, is it?
So, Adi, today morning, the contradictions in the demand which you yourself said that destroy the plants yourself, have no sunset clauses, absolutely no enrichment. All these demands which have reportedly come through the Americans in the American media. If that be the case, then I think in principle or somewhere the decision has already been taken that they would be going in, because till before yesterday, all the inputs that were coming was both America and Iran are looking at some way out of a through a deal. Even there were inputs which were given officially by the Iranian officials that they are talking of a commercial deal where US companies would be able to invest in Iran, whether in the infrastructure, whether in the oil, etc. So that what Trump is always known for, getting money out of anything transactional. So that those things are also there. But today morning's input indicate that the battle lines have been really drawn, and views are hardened, and it is going to be very difficult now to pull out. Because see, even if Trump today says that don't want to attack Iran, so what is the way out? You have amassed so much of military power. Can you just say, okay, no, it was a mistake, and Iran is still going on with the nuclear program, and we can't do anything about it, but we still have to pull out? You have to have some off ramp. What is the off ramp that is going to be here?
That's the whole thing, sir. So when you look at the Venezuela situation, one thing that we saw is off ramp came कि भाई उसने जाके मडूरो को उठा लिया, तो off ramp मिल गया उसको, and he didn't have to use his military one night. That 45-minute operation, he just finished it. So that's the whole thing, sir. When we look at this situation, he has no off ramp. Negotiations are at an end. एक आधा जो diplomacy होने वाली थी, Modi साहब's visit to Israel and all that, now that is over. There's nothing else. So it's what? Friday, Saturday night. I mean, Trump's favorite time to hit because the markets, the minute the markets close, that's the best time to hit because it doesn't impact.
No, it is looking tough, Adi, unless some real magic or miracle happens. It is looking tough. Although they have left the hope of further talks dangling, saying that in case there is some convergence, the next round will talks will take place in Vienna. So they have left that thin rope of hope hanging. But to me, it is looking very difficult because I'll tell you one thing: Iran is not going to negotiate on ballistic missiles. Point one. Iran is not going to negotiate on its right to peaceful enrichment. The only thing that Iran is ready to compromise is what I can make out is firstly that 400 kg of 60% enriched uranium, which they have said that they will dilute it themselves in front of international inspectors so that it becomes below a threshold level. Some reports have also said that they are ready to even accept a blanket ban on enrichment for a period of 2 years, 3 years, whatever small period. But after that, they would have the right to commence enrichment. And the third point that they are ready to agree or accept is lowering the threshold of enrichment to some level.
Mm.
Now, if all these things are agreed by Trump, the first question that everybody is going to ask is, why did you revoke JCPOA in 2018 if this is what you are getting?
He's
Because
stuck. No way out for
because
him. That's what I'm
yes,
saying. So
because JCPOA if 2015 when Obama got the nuclear deal was exactly this: no enrichment beyond 3.67%. The Arak heavy water plant was completely shut down, concretized. Only IR1, that is first generation centrifuges were permitted to enrich uranium, and there was no talk of ballistic missile because ballistic missile and conventional military capability were to be discussed separately as per the JCPOA. So if this is what you're going to get after this, then the question will arise: why have you
पहले क्यों
delayed the
नहीं?
whole thing for so many, almost 8 or 9 years? What have you achieved?
This is so. I mean, if I may say this is so freaking funny. It's not. It's not funny. It's funny that it's not so funny because lives are at stake at the end of it, and it's ridiculous. My last question to you would be, sir, how do you think the region is going to react? You've got these weird statements coming out from the Saudis, which the leaks say that the Saudis are enthusiastic about this, but the official statements are like, "Oh no, 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 we don't want this to be used." I don't know which one to believe because the Arabs, for one, have at least shown themselves as a dual face. They've not really stood up. The similar statement from the UK, but we won't let you use our base. But we know that F-35s, their refuelers and all that stuff have already come into target stations in their action stations. So, how do you think the region is going to react, sir? Especially the Middle East. How do you think they will react? Countries like Qatar, countries like Saudi, countries like UAE, and of course, the one factor which is nobody's talking about is the Houthis.
So, I mean, Houthis will obviously support Iran if the war breaks out, but Houthis even earlier have been more what I would classify into a nuisance value than a actual threat to a military threat. Yes, they will try and block the Red Sea again, which has been partially blocked earlier also, and it will impact the global flow of trade, etc. But Houthis, I would classify more in the category of nuisance than causing extensive military damage to United States or Israel. But the regional players are going to have a very, very tough time because Iran has made it very clear that any military asset of the West operating from any of the military bases in the region will make it liable to be targeted, being a legitimate military target. So I think, and to my mind, unlike the 12-day war or the October 24 strikes, I don't think this time Saudi Arabia or UAE will permit the use of their bases or assets. The only two exceptions to this, to my mind, is Jordan and Bahrain. So Jordan and Bahrain are totally within the influence and control of US, Israel, and Western alliance. And we have seen, imagery of how the fighters have been kept at the Jordan air base. In fact, they were reported Chinese military has been able to identify each and every fighter aircraft with its registration and everything and given it to the Iranians. So Jordan is there, and Jordan has permitted with impunity earlier also its airspace for the Israeli missiles to go to Iran, and it was also a party to stopping Iranian missiles entering Israel. So Jordan is going to play ball. Bahrain is going to play ball, but beyond that, I do not think they are going to do that. And this is especially because of the fact that Israel struck Qatar in September 25, and that was taken very very badly by all the Arab countries, and Netanyahu virtually had to apologize for that, and US took Israel very badly, very hardly on that, and thereafter they had to give almost like Article 5 NATO guarantees to Qatar that in future there'll be no military strike like this from Israel or anyone else. So there is a sense of mistrust which has happened between West and the Arab after the August September Qatar strikes. Plus, there is also a sense that today it is Iran, the kind of expansionist vision that Israel has been displaying earlier covertly and now overtly. There's a fear that this expansionist strategy could today target A, tomorrow it can target B. So, to my mind, Saudi, uh, Qatar, UAE, they'll be very cautious of supporting actively these strikes vis-a-vis last time. The Jordan and Bahrain may be the exceptions.
You know, the Saudis, if I know them, and I just want to drag this a little bit, if you don't mind, sir. The Saudis have known to do this before and take concessions out of America by kind of secretly nudge, nudge. Okay, okay. Uh, and there is a defense deal in place right now where the Saudis are asking for enrichment and this and that. All that nonsense is there, which is now in the public domain. Cradle has reported it. The Turks have reported it. The Arab media has reported it. A lot of people like me, of course, I speculate that the Saudis they've got their eyes on the Pakistani equipment.
Yeah.
The nukes and that facility that they've created in the middle of the desert, which is a true copy of Kanpur, seems to be a preparation for that. What do you think the Saudis are going to try and get out of this?
Saudis, as I said, will be very conscious because they have to play two parties at the same time. And this was not there before the Gaza war broke out. Before the Gaza war broke out, Saudis had been very successful in, either ignoring or modulating public opinion in on the side of normalization with Israel. But the Gaza war and the kind of civilian casualties and the damage to schools, hospitals, etc., which has taken place has really changed the public opinion on the street as far as the Arab countries are concerned. So even if secretly or within the politics of it, Saudi Arabia wants to normalize or wants to side with US and Israel, it is going to be very difficult to play it out against the very very strong opinion on the street. And like I said, the Qatar strike has again made it very difficult because it was not only seen as a strike against Qatar, it was seen as a strike against the trust that America had, a security guarantee and trust that America had assured the Arab nations.
Let's wait and watch. This is going to be one explosive situation, and I think it's going to be quite an interesting game to watch. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure, and I hope we meet sooner in the current situations than later, because I really like interacting with you, and our views have been at a very very good point for us to learn what is happening in the region. So I do hope we can catch up much sooner than the big gap that we've had. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Adi. And like I said, it may be the podcast before the war breaks out. I really hope it doesn't happen. Better sense prevails, because there is no way that the region or the world at large can afford another bitter conflict, and that too in West Asia region, where multiple issues get interlocked, whether it is oil flows, energy, everything will get affected. So I really hope the war does not break out, but signs are ominous and very difficult to say. Thank
Yeah.
you, and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir, and to all the audience, please like, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to support the channel. Check out the description. आपके लिए सारी details वहाँ पर available है. Namaskar. Jai Hind. Jai Bharat.